The end of every line rhymes. This poem is a bit different because the end of every line, the word at the end of every line sounds similar to the word before it and after it. Might be a bit confusing, but I want you to just concentrate and inshallah I hope you'll get it. Salli ala Muhammadin wa ala. Entranced by a household of gold, their history burns a candle in my heart. Their history began with one man and his story. Entranced by a household of gold, their history burns a candle in my heart. Their history began with one man and his story. When every man worshipped in some form an idol. When every man worshipped in some form an idol, grew arrogance, which too became an idol. The last messenger, Muhammad, would not stand idle. Not when jail was humanity's mind. Not when jail was humanity's mind. Knowledge buried deep in the soul. He mined and he freed man from the chains of his mind. And when Satan's call threw upon him the night, when Satan's call threw upon him the night, he answered with his own call to the night. Muhammad unveiled his armored knight. Muhammad unveiled his armored knight. Ali, who each battle by his hand it was won. Ali, who each battle by his hand it was won. He defended human freedom and he won the life of a message of the Lord. One. When Satan's call threw upon him the night. When Satan's call threw upon him the night, Muhammad answered with his own call to the night. Muhammad unveiled his armored knight. Ali, who each battle by his hand it was won. He defended human freedom and he won the life of a message of a Lord. One when not in battle. Ali, when not in battle, men's minds he'd be enlightening. Ali, when not in battle, men's minds he'd be enlightening. With speech he opened men's minds, enlightening like a shelter in rain and in lightning. Like a shelter in rain and in lightning. And he married Fatima on God's own altar. He married Fatima on God's own altar. As one they built a pulpit from this altar, a seat of knowledge that none may alter. A seat of knowledge that none may alter. Together they raised a household. What a household. Together they raised a household. What a household. Impeccable and weaved from gold. This household. How many have learned from what this house holds? How many have learned from what this house holds? Fatima preached, calling for women to be chaste. Fatima preached, calling for women to be chaste. For women overpower men when deemed chaste. Women overpower men when deemed chaste. Concealed beauty by lustful eyes, not chaste. She bore Hassan from who was stolen every right. She bore Hassan from who was stolen every right. Yet he approached injustice in his own right, knowing if to draw his sword and when to right. Hassan from who was stolen every right. He approached injustice in his own right, knowing if to draw his sword and when to right. For with every fight with injustice, for every fight with injustice, there's a way. For every fight with injustice, there's a way. How can you best make injustice go away? With his mind, all the options he would weigh. With his mind, all the options he would weigh. He lives in my memory like Hussein, my beloved. He lives in my memory like Hussein, my beloved. In every heart today, Hussein is beloved. What does it take to in this way be loved? He lives in my memory like Hussein, my beloved. In every heart today, Hussein is beloved. What does it take to in this way be loved? Hussein refused injustice. Hussein refused injustice, wanting to recede the rows of intellects in minds he'd recede. Never, even now, with his voice recedes. Never, even now, with his voice recede. He's the voice of injustice in all times, hard and tense. He is the voice of injustice in all times, hard and tense. His name does not know past, present, future tense. All oppression mirrors his burning tents. All oppression mirrors his burning tents. You think you know this household? You think you know this household? You've not hit the ceiling. You think you know this household? You've not hit the ceiling. For 9 imams of gold were all the true sealing of this letter of love, which shines sealing with their names like Sajjad, whose tears like rain they pour when speaking with his Lord out his heart. He pour his Lord a king and him a beggar poor. O Baqir, whose knowledge into men's minds he'd weave. Baqir, whose knowledge into men's minds he'd weave, teaching men how to think, teaching men how to think. This way he would weave men to think how and why, not I and weave. Baqir, whose knowledge into men's minds he'd weave, teaching men how to think. This way he would weave men to think how and why, not I and weave. Or Sadiq, who shaped the world, we all reside here. Sadiq, who shaped the world, we all reside here. Science, maths, chemistry, wisdom, all they'd hear and learn from Sadiq. Nations they would hear. Sadiq, who shaped the world, we all reside here. Science, maths, chemistry, wisdom, all they'd hear and learn from Sadiq. Nations they would hear, but few heard Qaim from a lifetime imprisoned. Few heard Qaim for a lifetime imprisoned. Yet still he taught us to patience, imprison for impatience. Impatience, it shall leave all in prison. His son Jawad, from a young age he discussed. His son Jawad, from a young age he discussed opinions and theories. With all he discussed, showing us another's belief should not bring disgust. Showing us another's belief should not bring disgust. Or Ali Hadi, the magnificent teacher. Ali Hadi, the magnificent teacher. He destroyed ignorance through teaching. With this, he'd open minds, so that minds would better heed. Or Askari, like Hussein, had a heart made of steel. Askari, like Hussein, had a heart made of steel. He'd speak against injustice when rulers, they would steal the people's money and his life. They locked him away. They locked him away, and this household scent we missed. They locked him away, and this household scent we missed. He was poisoned, killed. His scent, how much we missed. He was poisoned, killed. His scent, how much we missed. His son Mehdi disappeared into mist. We waited for Mehdi. Decades and centuries passed. We waited for Mehdi. Decades and centuries passed. Our minds began to close. Our minds began to close again as ages passed. This house became one of old and of past. In every age, on the horizon we would peer. In every age, on the horizon we would peer, wanting the ship of salvation to appear, and still we wait upon its empty pier. And when he does rise up from the smoke of death, when he does rise up from the smoke of death, he'll reopen human intellect, justice, he'll re-establish evil beneath his heel. A household of gold. A household of gold I paint with my words. Behold, a household of gold I paint with my words. Behold, let your character by their words be held. For free our minds that by them have been held. Heed the word, heed the love that provokes the words of the lover. Heed the love that provokes the words of the lover. Salli ala Muhammadin wa For my final poem, inshallah, I'd like to leave you all, as I did briefly in this poem previously, discussing Imam Mahdi's absence. So briefly, before I leave you, I'd like to leave you, if possible,